I think it's unquestionable at this point that we're seeing some increase in volumes. January 24, relative to January 23, the numbers are up almost 50%. The drivers are clearly a better macroeconomic environment. Rates do appear to be coming down. There definitely is a lot of private equity money and strategic money on the sidelines. It's been a low volume environment, so there's a lot of potential supply coming out of the private equity firms that need to monetize. And so there are a lot of reasons, things like consumer confidence is up a little bit. CEO confidence and board confidence are probably getting better, but not quite there. So we are definitely seeing it in the volumes. We're feeling it in the dialogue. But I think it's a little early to declare victory. Energy's been quite good. Tech always, that's an area that we do see and will continue to see, we think, significant transaction volumes. I think also geopolitical risk is something that we're all focused on, more so now than we have been in the last several years. While there seems to be more comfort around macroeconomics, it's still not clear to me what actually happens. We're looking at a soft landing, we're looking at rates coming down. But unclear yet as to how that shakes out. So I think some degree of caution and price discipline are the kinds of things that we need to be careful around here. When you get into a more transactional environment, the activists tend to be very economically rational. They get more transactional as well. And what I mean by that is we see, for example, looking at portfolios that companies have of assets and trying to decide what makes sense to belong in this company and what doesn't. They do look at things like some of the parts analysis to figure out, is a company really undervalued or not undervalued? And so we tend to see an emphasis on more transactional type stuff, divestitures, spins, whole company sales. Activist tactics, I think, have gotten much more sophisticated and better. In the early days, it was, get out a megaphone and start yelling and go very public and get very aggressive. I think what's happened over time, the directors that were being nominated in proxy fights are being put up, in negotiations have become much more high quality, I would argue, relative to 10 years ago. And that's helped. But also just a sense that we're better off trying to stay behind the scenes and working with management to the extent we can, and avoiding these very confrontational, sort of very aggressive type candidacies. You end up in a very adversarial environment, which makes it very tough to negotiate an outcome. I think that we're seeing a lot more negotiated outcomes than we used to see. And I think, the fact of the matter is a lot of activists or their designees are on boards. That's also something that has to be factored into this. But I think the tactics have gotten more sophisticated and better from the standpoint of the activists, and frankly, more conciliatory as I see them. And we used to say in the old days that it was sort of a mid-cap phenomenon, activism, but that's not true anymore. Nobody's immune, and in that context, even companies that are performing relatively well, because what the activists are looking to do, it's all about enhanced shareholder value and making money. And you could argue some of that's way too short-termism, some of it's not, but what's really happened is that they have been able to find aspects in these large entities that perhaps need to be improved or could do better. And they've gotten a bit of a following, and they've gotten some of the other shareholders to go along with them as they pursue these campaigns. And what that does is it puts board and management on notice that you got to pay attention. I just think this asset class becomes more mainstream. There'll be more AUM. It's not going away. I think it's a part of the landscape that's here to stay. We're very excited about our platform at Consello. What we're trying to do, I think, is truly differentiated. When I got into the business many, many years ago, there were a number of very specialized, smaller shops that gave very dispassionate, very bespoke advice. And that's what we're trying to do here. We want to go deep with clients. We want to be incredibly selective about who we do business with. We're going to really manage our conflicts incredibly carefully, and we're going to provide senior attention from the start of a transaction through the finish, no bait and switch. We're not going to be all things to all people, and what we're finding is that there is a very strong desire to have a very trusted relationship where you're willing to go deep with a client, and there's no worry that you'll show up on a competitor's side next week. So those are the sorts of things we're trying to do, and it resonates. We're very enthusiastic about what we have, and that this model, we think it's the right time for a model like this.